What is the most underrated album of 2024? Is it Blue Lips by Schoolboy Q? Plan A by Lil Tecca? I Lay My Life Down For You by JPEG Mafia? Or is it Vultures 2 by Kanye West? Just kidding, we all know that album sucked. But what if it was none of those I just told you, and it was an album by Lupe Fiasco called Samurai? I'm sure to most of y'all, Lupe Fiasco doesn't really ring a bell, but he may have made some songs you've heard of. For one, The Show Goes On. Superstar. And Battle Scars. This video will be broken up into 3 segments. 1, I'm just going to give you some information on the album. 2, I'm going to tell you what I really like about the album. And 3, I'm going to tell you some things I don't like about the album. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. Samurai was produced on June 28th of this year, and it just amazes me how underrated this album still is. This album is an amazing mixture of great production, amazing rapping, great storytelling, and some pretty admirable lyrics. The producer on this album's name is Soundtrack, and he's known to be seen on a lot of other Lupe songs. This album explores a lot of themes such as resilience, self-identity, self-empowerment, cultural commentary, and also a lot of things individuals struggle with in everyday life. If you didn't hear me the past 100 times, this album is called Samurai, and I'm sure you know samurai are heavily based on their identity and their honor, which this album is heavily based around. Overall, this album was a meditation of strength, honor, and the fight for one's place in this world. There's a lot of different highs and lows to this album. It's almost like throughout the entire album, you can hear him kind of contradicting himself. And there's a lot of things that he's like trying to get himself to remind himself of, hey, I need to go back to rap and I need to start rapping again. I don't know if I heard that wrong, but it's kind of something I picked up. I'm not completely sure. But something I did pick up after listening to the entire album was there is a very common theme across every song of kind of a competitive spirit, and it becomes more and more obvious by every song you go through. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of highs and lows to this album, and there's a lot of lighter beats and a lot of beats that are darker and a lot of songs that are darker. But again, I kind of got a glimpse of, I'm not sure if I'm right, but like the character I guess he's playing is kind of grasping back his consciousness and pulling him back to, hey, this is a competitive type of thing and I need to stay in this hip hop. I don't know if I caught that right once again, but I really think that is what I'm hearing. I'm not completely sure what type of character he's playing, but I do know it's a competitive type and he's in the hip hop mindset. Let's go ahead and talk about the things I really like about this album. My top 3 songs on this album with no particular order is number 1 Samurai, number 2 Mumble Rap, and number 3 number 1 Headband. All of those songs are on pretty calm lo-fi beats, but he just does not disappoint when it comes to rapping. It really is such a surprise to hear him rap this good based on all of his other songs being more of a motivational type. Another producer I really like is Nujabes, who sadly died in a car crash a while ago. But some of his samples are amazing. And a lot of the production on this album reminds me of his work, which is something I just love. Another thing regarding Lupe himself is his rapping is insanely clever and almost gives a sort of MF Doom vibe to it when it comes to references. And I do not say that lightly. I've come to notice in a lot of these songs, you can hear like mouth trumpets. It sounds weird, but I actually really like it. It really sounds good with a lot of the beats he's rapping on. And there's also a lot of female chorus in the background of a lot of these songs, which I absolutely love as well. I cannot tell you guys how much I love jazz rap. I think it's just such a beautiful and calming and therapeutic type of genre of rap. You really can't get much better than some of the beats on here, according to jazz rap. And like I said many times, he just flows through every beat. It's so catchy. His hooks are great. The instrumentals on the album are amazing, perfectly timed. They really just flow into that beat as well. And the production on this album is one of my favorites when it comes to jazz rap. This is a really short album with only 8 songs and no features, but he devours every song with ease. I just love every song on here. I really don't think there's any skips, maybe 1 or 2. It's just such an amazing album to listen to. I really recommend you try it out. As you can see here, this album has almost no plays for what it's worth, with Samurai being the #1 stream song on Spotify. I'm sure there's many things I didn't mention that I do like about this album, but there's just a lot of things I like about this album in general. Let's move on to the stuff I don't really like. The only complaints I really have are pretty simple and not something that really bugs me too much, but I'd say my biggest complaint is this album is a little confusing. That it's supposed to, I can really tell it's supposed to tell a pretty vivid story. He does a really good job with painting a picture of his character, and it's pretty obvious what he's rooting for, but it's a short album, like I said earlier in the video, with about 30 minutes in length. And it's really hard to paint a clear picture when your album is that short. But it really doesn't bother me. I'm not listening to it for a story. But I do think he is trying to paint a picture, and he does a relatively good job, but I really do think it leaves you confused if you're not just like really listening to it. There's also a couple of things regarding like flow that I gotta kind of nitpick in some of these songs. He uses a lot of, I guess, stop and go flow type of lyrics. And if you don't know what it is, it's kind of like da na 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 na. And he's, obviously he's rapping when I'm saying na 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 na. But I'm not really a fan of that. It's kind of gets repetitive, and he does it in a lot of he doesn't do it for like a whole song a bunch. But in a couple of his songs, he has just short segments where he starts to do that. And I'm really just not a fan of it. It kind of starts to get repetitive. It's not as fun to listen to on these type of beats, because these beats are just made to be kind of flown through and just slick through, just kind of going through it real fast, pretty high BPM. I just really don't think the stop and go type of flow really works on these beats. That's kind of just something I have to nitpick real quick. Let's finish this video off with a summary of the album, and I'll give you my personal rating. In summary, I think this album really surprised me. Lupe didn't strike me as somebody who would just come out here and do jazz rap to this degree. I really think this is above average. His lyrics being comparable to MF Doom's, with references, flow, and production value that really reminds me of Nujabes, who is one of my favorites. These two key components come together to make just a beautiful piece of jazz rap. If I were to give this a rating, I would give it a 7 out of 10. Nothing blew my socks off, but I really do think this is impressive. Nothing here was enough to really just had me jumping out of my seat. But I really do think the production and the lyrics, I cannot say that enough, are just amazing on this. But, obviously I did have a little bit of complaints about this album. Not too many. I definitely had more compliments than complaints. but there still were some. And, you know, again, nothing really blew my socks off. I really do think this project is underrated. You really need to give it a listen to see for yourself. And let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with me. I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.